Welcome to Let's Play Rule the Waves 2 as France, starting in 1920. This is episode 96 and is undoubtedly going to be the last episode of the game, but not of the series. I'm going to do some post-game analysis video or videos, depending on how much material I've got to comb through after 35 years of multiple wars and intense technological evolution. The job today is just to finish off. We're at minus 3,000. Obviously, I would put many of the smaller vessels and the escort vessels into mothballs, but I think I'm going to start by a little bit of scrapping. I think it's time to say farewell to a few of these ships. Let me just sort them by displacement. So, number 1 and 2, Redoutable and Requin. The sister ships dating back to 1921. I can't remember if this was the first ship that I designed when I took over the fleet in 1920 or whether this was under construction. They've done a great job, but 13-inch guns, despite the couple of SAMs that I've added to it, don't really cut it. And the battle generator just isn't feeding them into battles. They only have 3 stars, I think, each. Yeah. Whereas, say, the Democracy and the Tourville and the Liberty all have 7 stars, and the Duquesne 6, and the Dauphin and Charleroi obviously only a couple. So they're not being valued by the battle generator. They're not appearing. So farewell. Thanks very much. I think they would be replaced by heavy cruisers, or certainly cruisers, SAM cruisers, to continue to provide that valuable air protection. But for now, they have to go. And then, with regret, I think it's finally time for the Doucets to be scrapped. Again, they didn't appear in any of the battles in this war. Not that they are short of battle honours. Certainly the Doucet itself has the full 7, and as has the Gloire. But the Kelber, strangely, only has 4. I don't know why it got excluded from various battles. I mean, they've been amazing. They were battle cruisers of quite light proportions, but downgrading them to heavy cruisers with effectively massive armour. Let's just go and have a look at design. Has been, 8-inch belt, 10-inch conning tower, 8-inch, 8.5-inch. They've been sterling ships and they've done great service. They have no torpedo defense, and of course they're very vulnerable, and a number of you have suggested that, probably it was time to scrap them earlier. I invested in them and put SAMs in them. That's, I think, the right thing to do. I think the SAMs did very well, but I think now, it's time to finally say well to these magnificent ships. I hope it saves one of them to be historic ships. No, just for the money. So yeah, let's put a dent in the monthly balance, and then if I just do the usual. And put these ships into mothballs, and these 2. Yep, that's taken us almost back to normal. Oh, I can turn down the intelligence now as well. And that puts us into positive. I would love to scrap some of these old destroyers, I mean, they've earned their time, but at 900 tons, they are unupgradable. And, but actually they're just too useful to scrap. I could downgrade them to be corvettes, but I'd have to replace the engines, which would make them more expensive than just building a new corvette. They're not super more expensive to maintain than a corvette, so there's really no economic incentive to do anything with them. I think in Rule the Waves 3 They are going to be harsher about old ships. They will get more expensive and they will get slower. But certainly in Ruler Waves 2, you'd be a fool to get rid of them, even though they are literally museum pieces. So that's all of that done. Let's move on and see what the final 6 months bring for us. Should just add that I've got research turned down to 8% rather than the usual that we do. So that would be another couple of thousand to find if I turned it up to its proper level. So enemy air losses in the last war: shot down 222, a third by fighters, just under a third by other aircraft, usually primarily the dive bombers as secondary fighters, and then effectively a third and a bit by the anti-aircraft. So 13% by heavy, 3 by medium, 3 by light, and 22% by SAM. So, well, first of all, I feel super vindicated by investing heavily in the SAMs. They worked really well. Not only in hard kills, in shooting planes down, but potentially in soft kills. Now, I don't know how the game modifies that, but if you've got a strike group of aircraft that takes heavy damage on its way in, there's probably going to be some sort of negative modifier to the accuracy of their final attack. So, yeah, the utility of medium and light AAs is clearly really low. And so when you're fitting out your ships, heavy AA is definitely your number one priority, and medium and light AA should be just fillers really into what space you have. And when you get SAMs, and I note that a lot of countries, if not most countries in this game, haven't currently got SAMs, so when you get SAMs, retrofit them back on because they are super, super useful. Very pleased with that. Bit of scrapping. The Americans scrapping some battleships as well, built in 32, so you can see I've been quite cautious with my my scrappings. You can see my monthly balance has suddenly improved significantly, so let's just crank this up to the full extent, just see if we can get some more researches, discoveries through into September. So our new dive bomber enters service. And then into October. I think that's our final cruiser entered into service. And a new torpedo bomber too. You can't say I haven't been keeping my planes up to date. I think the only very old one is the flying boat from 1945, but I don't think I would get very much of a significant improvement. One of you asked about the medium bomber, actually, now that I'm looking at planes, because the Loire 164s did have quite a high rate of operational loss, and you wondered what their reliability was, and it turns out to be average. So I guess your thinking was that if it was poor, that might explain the high number of operational losses. So yeah, bit of a mystery there, but never mind. And let's get rid of that. And a very healthy balance for October, and almost all of the fleet is active. There are a couple that technically I should go and modernize. Let's open that up. I don't think there's much I can do. Minus 300, I wonder why that is. 100 aircraft, a couple of catapults. Yeah, well. Okay, so to bring it back within an allowable weight, I've removed the light and the medium AA because their performance is being poor, and I have reduced by 1 the port and starboard aft wing. Let me just see if it's all happy with that. Oh, And I should probably increase the fire control. There we go. So that's all great. And get them modernized. Yep. There we go. I think it's nice just to keep it realistic, even though we are at the end of the game. Been an upheaval in the Philippines. Japan is sending a force. Let's issue an ultimatum and make them back down. And they back down. And our relations with Japan, which looked like they were on a 3, go to a 5 or something. Unexpected advances in subdivision and damage control. Just quick whiz round. Let's look at the bases. So I have finally got rid of the airships. There are a number of bases out in the Mediterranean and the Far East that could have been modified to increase their capacity, but it served me well enough, so that's fine. Coastal fortifications, just a few batteries, which probably are not worth it anymore. 6-inch and 8-inch guns. Quite a lot of motor torpedo boat squadrons that, if I remember rightly, did nothing whatsoever. So a little bit of a wasted investment there. Yeah, I can't remember one single combat. So let's scrap all of them. Shame, really, because I quite like the idea. Oh, let's scrap. Oh, okay. It's only scrapping one by one. So yes, clearly overinvested in motor torpedo boats. Possibly underinvested in submarines, as you can see. Not many. Those two being built. And off to December. That's a no to all the air bases. So December 1955, the last turn. Let's just have a little bit of fun with a spot of ship design. I've been playing around with the aircraft carriers, and to be honest, there's not a lot that you can do. So I'm really looking forward to Rule the Waves 3 to take carrier design well beyond the 100 plane kind of limit. So I have the Bian here, 50,000 tons. Have to build it in Britain because, of course, I've never really invested in docks. That's, by the way, seemed to have worked out okay, especially, of course, being lucky to have a very long-term and strong alliance with Britain. So the usual 100 planes, a couple of catapults, downgraded completely the light and medium anti-air. I could add a few, but the stats from the previous battle really showed what a relatively poor investment they were. Sadly, I can't add any SAMs to the design because first generation SAMs need to be centerline, which doesn't go so well. So we've got a variety of dual purpose 5-inch guns with autoloader. That's the maximum I can have without turrets interfering in operation, giving us 80 air factors. I wonder, just out of interest, if I could add a whole pile of secondary guns, make them autoloader, make them dual purpose, which takes the heavy anti-air to 106, just to see if it will allow that. That's odd. Building engine cannot build ships this way. Too many secondary guns. Okay, so let's just bring it down to 20. It's probably 16, so let's go down to 16. I'm not sure why it's saying I can't build ships this side when I'm building it in Britain. Oh, okay. So it's fine with that. Let's just check 16 is the limit. Yeah, 16 was the limit. So let's go down to 16. Of course, I could double them up to... Oh, that's odd. So that only takes it... curious. Having 16 twin turrets doesn't make any change from the 16 singles. Not sure why that is. They could have their own director. So obviously it was slightly overweight by a couple of 100 tons. It does add a little bit to the total. Yeah, 19. So certainly worth having. High speed, long range by default, which is interesting. If I took that down to our usual medium, that would save a fair amount of tonnage. 8-inch guns. Well, 8-inch guns are nicely proof to 10-inch cruiser guns, which, bar the odd meeting with a battleship, should be the norm going forward. I can't imagine that carriers like this should be meeting anybody. If we go to Dreadnought battleships, suggest a name. Okay, Ocean, that sounds fun. And let it auto-design. It comes up, well, 41,000 actually. I can build in Britain. Now, I have to say, having used it in combat, I don't like the all-forward turret arrangements of Rodney and of Jean Bart and all of that. You do sometimes have to withdraw, and having a rear turret is really handy. So I'm going to have to play with this myself. So let's decrease this and decrease that, and then add turrets in X, in Y, and make it a triple. And there we go for that. Nothing excessive. Yes, it does increase the weight to 43,000. So, you see, I'd like to build it here, because if I build it in Britain, they can't have any SAMs. And if I build it, say, in America, they can't have it. And if I build it in Japan, nope. And if I, whoops, wrong one. If I build it in Italy, who, by the way, seem to have the largest shipyards, nope. And let's try Germany. So only Germany and France have built or discovered SAMs at this point. But, this is sort of fiddling around with the margins. I mean, if I go to our trusty Charleroi, where's he gone? There he is. 57,000 tons, 17-inch guns. Wonderful. I wonder what a modified Charleroi would be called. I could make it faster and stuff, but the reason why we need Rulerways 3 is because we've absolutely reached the limit of what we could do here with this kind of ship. So that's kind of it for ship design. We've reached the end of the road. So let's push forward. And there you are. The end of the year, 1955. The game is over. But this series isn't. So, if you've been watching since 1920, a year and a half ago, you're slightly mad, but I'm delighted that you've stayed with me. It's meant that I've finished this, because without your support, I may have given up earlier, but it's certainly given me the oomph to carry on all the way through. The regular game is over. I can carry on, but I'm not going to. There's just not the technological drive to develop further ships. So let's okay that. And here we go. Now, obviously, this maps out our prestige. which is not really something that I've been particularly bothered with, but this will be helpful actually whilst I do some post-game analysis in the next video or two. Obviously had one more game, that's my other game, Italy, which I did by myself, where I was bothered about prestige and did pretty well. But Admiral Bertin has done France proud, and oh yes, and we're going to have a new aircraft carrier called after it. Very lovely. Great. So next up is going to be the first potentially of several analysis episodes, trying to get my arms around the entire experience of seeing this brilliant game unfolding, and actually getting quite excited about the relatively soon release of Ruler Waves 3, which will be able to allow us to take this even further. But for now, thanks for watching.